3 a.m. Shocking truth. Newlywed, she stabbed husband after discovering his dark secret. The night was thick with tension, thick enough to cut through with a knife. It was the kind of Saturday evening where rain beat down relentlessly, turning the streets into a river of black ink under the street lamps. Just behind those darkened windows lay a secret, a terrifying truth waiting to spill out. An emergency call rang through the dimly lit dispatch room. A frantic voice echoed, laced with fear, blood, betrayal, and the chilling confession of a crime committed at the stroke of 3 a.m. Inside that quiet little house on Maple Street, freshly painted and still smelling of newness, a scream shivered through the air, freezing the very breath of the night. Claire, wide-eyed and breathless, stood frozen in the kitchen. The knife in her trembling hand glistened red under the flickering fluorescent light. Just hours before, they had been exchanging sweet nothings, loving whispers that filled the room. But then, she stumbled upon the truth, a journal filled with haunting tales that hinted at a life darker than the midnight sky. When Claire opened that journal, a tightening grip squeezed her chest. Each printed word shook her, making her heart race. Details of a past life secret rendezvous, lies wrapped delicately around the truth, an underbelly of betrayal that made her skin crawl. The husband she had pledged forever to had cut ties with the person he once was, slipping through the crevices of her trust. She gasped at each shocking revelation. Impossible. She could barely breathe, barely think. Something deep within her shifted, a flicker of rage mixed with despair. Could she really trust him? The lights overhead buzzed as more rain pounded against the window, drowning out her thoughts. She felt heat rising in her cheeks, pain tightening her throat. No time to dwell, he would be home any moment. Her hands grew clammy as the minutes crawled by. She could hear the voices of neighbors whispering outside, casting curious glances her way, questioning what secrets might dwell behind those once happy walls. Then, the front door creaked open. He was home, the man she had stood before in a dreamlike haze of joy just days ago. As he strode into the kitchen, a smile playing on his lips, everything shifted. Had he known? Did he sense the storm brewing inside her, ready to explode? His eyes glinted with something she couldn't quite place, and in that moment, the kitchen felt too small, too suffocating. Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Just then, the silence shattered when she spoke, her voice barely a whisper. What are you hiding? His expression froze, eyes widening, and she could see it, a flicker of fear, a crack in his charming facade. The clock on the wall ticked louder than her heartbeat now, counting down the seconds until chaos erupted. Suddenly, the weight of that knife surfaced in her hand again, its chilling steel now a fateful decision weighing heavier than ever. Was it too late to turn back? What would she do if he didn't answer? The air buzzed with desperation. Claire, he murmured, and the way he said her name felt foreign and distant. But why? She felt it, a primal urge hooked deep in her gut. The truth of what happened that night would unravel, layer by layer. But with what cost? What dark essence did her love disguise? The clock was ticking, and she had to choose. Would she confront the darkness, or would fear make her act? Faced with the man she thought she knew, the shadows seemed to dance around them, pulling her deeper into uncertainty. What would become of Claire and her newfound knowledge? Would she truly be able to face the consequences of her heartbroken fury? The air in the kitchen crackled like an electrical storm, and Claire's heart hammered against her ribs. Time stalled, stretched thin like the tension that hung between them. She aimed the knife at him, every instinct screaming for clarity. It was a moment suspended in chaos. Would the love they shared matter now? Tell me the truth, James, she demanded, her voice rising, turning into a shriek that shattered the silence. Her hands shook, the knife trembling dangerously beneath her grip. She couldn't tell if it was fear or fury coursing through her veins. James took a careful step forward, his hands lifted in surrender. Claire, please. What is this about? His smile from moments ago vanished. Only confusion and concern remained. But Claire didn't buy it. He was acting, just like he always had. I found the journal. She spat. Every lie, every sordid secret you thought I'd never uncover. You think this is a game? Her breath hitched when his brows knitted, a flicker of panic darting across his face. She could see the realization dawn on him, a silent acknowledgement that pierced through the clanging chaos in her mind. Let us talk about this, okay? Just put the knife down, and we can know. She interrupted, the single word like a gunshot in the crowded room. You don't get to play the calm husband now. You're a stranger to me. James's eyes darted, searching for a way out. Claire, we can work this out. I never meant for you to find that. It was just a phase. I was trying to move on, to be better. A tide of anger swelled within her, crashing against the shores of her reason. Move on. You think lying to me, being with other women, is just a phase? You're sick. The rain pounded their small house, drumming a relentless beat against the windows, drowning out their voices as the storm outside mirrored the tempest within. Each drop pressed heavier on Claire's shoulders, her pulse quickening. Would she really stab him? No, but the knife felt right in her hand, her defense against betrayal. In the journal, you wrote about them. What else did you keep from me? What else don't I know? She forced out, emotions spilling over like the rainwater pouring down the drain outside. The remnants of love, trust, everything shattered, replaced by a new reality she could hardly behold. I was trying to protect you. He burst out, desperation creeping into his voice. From who I was, from what I had done. The pieces clicked together in that moment. Protect me? She echoed. You thought keeping me in the dark was protection? Did you think I'd be better off not knowing you're a liar? Please put the knife down. I promised there's more to explain. His voice wavered, and Claire couldn't tell if he was scared of her or scared of being found out. More? A pained laugh escaped her lips, raw and bitter. More lies, more stories to entrap me. You think I'm going to just sit back and let you squirm your way out of this? The knife glimmered ominously as her grip tightened. Thoughts raced through her mind, broken vows, shattered trust, uncertain love. Could she really hurt him? Is this who she had become? And then, as if he could sense the doubt in her eyes, James took a step forward, desperation overtaking reason. You don't have to do this. Please let us start over. I love you, Claire. Those words hung in the air like smoke. Was it love or something darker? That question suffocated her, drowning out everything else. Torn between the life she thought they had and the betrayal that curled around her heart like a vice, Claire felt the walls closing in. But then, the sirens blared in the distance, cutting through the overwhelming tension of that kitchen. Help was coming. And in that moment, the question loomed larger than ever. Once the police arrived, what would she tell them? Would she become the victim in a story twisted by betrayal, or would she succumb to the darkness that threatened to swallow her whole? With her heart racing, everything hung in the balance. The decision she would make next would not only shape her future, but unleash a series of events she couldn't yet comprehend. Would she let go, or would she hold on to that blade just a moment longer? The sirens echoed closer, sharper than ever. Claire could feel the urgency of the approaching help pushing into the very marrow of her bones. Every second stretched, the ticking clock a taunt reminding her that decisions had consequences. James took another hesitant step forward, his features contorting between fear and pleading. Just breathe, okay? Let us not make this worse, he said, voice quivering. Yet his words dripped condescension, like honey turned sour. Worse? Claire's laugh was hollow, spiraling into the chaos of her mind. This is already worse, James. How can you even say that? You've lied to me for how long? How many times did you think I'd overlook your betrayals? Her pulse raced. Each inflammatory memory fanned the flames within her. The moments they'd shared, once sweet, now diminished to ashes. James, looking more like a shadow of the man she loved, stepping into a realm she didn't recognize. I can explain everything. Desperation pierced his tone. You don't know the whole story. I was sick, I swear. The drugs, the shut up. She shrieked, a wave of fury washing over her. How typical. You think you can spin this into another excuse? I've had enough of your stories. The knife, heavy in her trembling hand, felt both empowering and terrifying. It was her anchor amidst the storm of emotions, a stark reminder of what James had stripped away. The possibility of love, of trust, lay shattered on the kitchen floor. Inhaling sharply, she ran a hand through her hair, feeling wild and raw. Did you even want to reconcile? Or was this all part of the game? She shot at him, eyes ablaze with questions that begged for answers. He faltered, searching her face as if it held the key to all his lies. But there was no key, only locks built on betrayal. The rain outside matched her turmoil, relentless lashes against the window. Time slowed, the reality setting in. She felt the sharp edge of the blade pressed to her palm. It was a tether to the rage that swirled within her, but also a beckoning to the abyss. What kind of woman was she becoming? Claire, please. He was close enough now that she could see the sweat glisten on his temples. Just put down the knife, and let us work through this. He paused, his blue eyes widening together. Something flickered in her heart, a tiny ember of hope buried under layers of hurt. Could they? But the sparks of love were dulled by the spirals of anger. Before she could grasp the feeling, the wailing sirens grew louder, cutting through the veil of intimacy that had somehow remained. Their reunion was interrupted by the harsh realization that the police would soon burst through the door. Would they believe her? Who do you think they side with? She whispered, fury and confusion washing over like tidal waves. You, the liar, or me, the wife wielding a knife because of your secrets? James took a step back, panic tightening his features further. This doesn't have to be how it ends. Not like this. But the finality loomed. Claire's heart raced even faster. She stood there, caught in a moment that felt like an eternity. The decision now transformed into a choice between letting go or facing the chaos of her reality. That inner battle twisted inside her. Should she push through the darkness, or seek the light of denial? Just then, the door rattled under the weight of a heavy knock. The authority of mention can often mean salvation or disaster. Her grip tightened on the knife as her instincts screamed at her to decide. The weight pressed down on her, suffocating. In one breath, everything could change. Was she ready for what was coming? Or would the truth finally be laid bare, fracturing whatever remained between them? The footsteps of the officers echoed down the hall, and Claire knew the moment had come. Her choice would speak louder than any words ever could. The front door burst open, splintering the tense moment like a fragile glass. Two uniformed officers, their faces marred by uncertainty and urgency, flooded into the room. The abrupt shift sent Claire's heart racing even faster. "Drop the weapon," the taller officer shouted, his voice booming with authority as he trained his gaze on the knife in her hand. Claire's grip faltered, the blade shaking as her fingers allowed doubt to creep back in. Had she moved from one nightmare to another? Reality distorted. Everything seemed unreal, like a twisted dream where she was both the monster and the victim. "Claire!" James yelled, his own panic spilling into the air like spilled ink. "Listen to them. Just let it go. Step away from her," the other officer commanded, taking careful steps toward her, his hands ready. The room was thick with tension, the air electric with fear and apprehension. Claire's eyes darted between her husband and the officers. "You don't understand. He is not who you think he is." The words tumbled out, a desperate plea without structure, echoing in the chaos. "He is a liar." Her voice cracked, disintegrating into something raw. "He has done horrible things, and the officers exchanged wary glances. "Ma'am, you need to put down the knife right now. We don't want anyone to get hurt." "Get hurt?" she snapped, her anger bubbling to the surface. "Do you think I'm the only one in danger here? You don't know what he is capable of. He has been lying. All these months, years." "Stop!" James shouted, anguish etched into his features. "You're not helping." His eyes darted toward the officers, who were inching closer, weapons drawn. Claire felt herself collapse inward. The whirlwind of emotions left her dizzy, teetering on the edge of insanity. What kind of darkness had enveloped them? What type of truths were wrapped in the shadows of their life together? "Put down the knife," the first officer repeated, carefully approaching her. "We want to help you. Just talk to us." The sirens outside wailed in crescendo, drowning out her thoughts, and the weight of the blade felt unbearable. She didn't want to hurt him, did she? She just wanted to expose the fractures in their world that his lies had created. But the officer's presence only magnified the stakes, and she realized her next move could seal their fates. The knife slipped from her hand, clattering to the floor like a shattered promise. In the silence that followed, she felt the tension shift, now resting heavily in the air. Claire watched as the officers shifted focus, moving away from her, eyeing James with suspicion. "Sir, we're going to need you to step back as well," one officer said, voice hardening. Every inch of Claire's body screamed for her to say something, to clarify, but no words formed. James shook his head in disbelief. "This isn't what it looks like. I can explain." The officer stepped forward, inching toward James with careful movements, and Claire felt a rush of fear. If James was apprehended, his secrets could come out. But what if it meant justice for her? Could she trust the police to see past his facade? She stole a glance at the officers. Would they believe her story now that she dropped the knife? Or would they perceive her as the aggressor, a woman unraveling in grief and rage? The tension climbed as the officers approached James, but Claire couldn't breathe. She felt everything she strove for: clarity, resolution, truth teetering on a precipice. As the first officer reached James, their hands hovered near his waist, and Claire could only watch, heart pounding as ominous uncertainty wrapped around her like a vice. Would this nightmare end in justice, or another layer of deception envelop them all? The moment felt thin, threadbare, as Claire braced for the unforeseen truths lurking just beyond the door. What shocking revelations did the night still hold? Would she find a path to reclaim her life, or would she remain a prisoner of her own choices? Claire's breath quickened as the officer slowly extended his hand, fingers hovering just above James's waistband. The air felt heavy, thick with layers of unspoken words. Her heart thudded against her chest, a primal urge to scream tearing at her throat. She was caught in a whirlwind of fear, of shame, of despair. "Let me explain," James insisted, desperation leaking into his voice, but the officer stepped closer, not backing down. "You don't know the whole story." "Neither does she," whispered the second officer, his gaze shifting from Claire to her husband with simmering distrust. Claire felt a jolt of recognition, a shared understanding. They didn't trust him. And why should they? The shadow of his lies loomed large, an insurmountable wall between them, and the truth seemed like a flickering candle in the storm. "Stay back," Claire shouted, the words exploding from her. The officers paused, momentarily caught off guard by the intensity of her plea. "You don't get to judge him without hearing me." "Ma'am, please," the first officer warned, holding his ground. "This is a serious situation. You need to calm down." Calm. Could they even grasp the chaos wrapping itself around her heart? She spent years feeling like the walls were closing in. Only now they began to splinter, revealing fragments of the reality she refused to see. Did they think her outburst was a sign of madness? She was desperate for anyone to understand the truth twisted within her like shards of glass. "James." She turned to him, desperation coursing through her veins. Tell them what you've done." His face fell momentarily, the usual mask of charm replaced by something unrecognizable: fear, regret. "You don't want to do this," he said, his voice dropping as if he could turn back time with mere words. "But I do." Tears streamed down her cheeks, a bitter testament to the anguish seeping into her very bones. "I need them to understand. I'm not crazy. I'm just trying to protect myself." The officer shifted, his eyes narrowing. "What are you protecting yourself from, Claire?" "From him," she screamed, the sheer weight of it rattling through the room. "He has been playing a game, and I am not his pawn anymore. I won't let his web of lies trap me." Suddenly, the second officer pulled out his radio, fingers dancing over the buttons. "We need backup here. Possibly an officer-involved shooting." The words froze Claire's blood, and a new wave of panic gripped her. This wasn't just an argument. It was spiraling into something far darker, a potential accusation that could label her forever an aggressor. No, she pleaded, voice trembling. "You can't do this." "Claire," James's voice shifted, low and urgent. "Just breathe. Let us talk." "No." The fire surged in her, igniting her survival instinct. "You want to talk? Let us talk about the day I found the blood on your shirt. The night you said you were out late and came home with that stain. What did you do, James? What are you hiding?" The officers exchanged glances, uncertainty hanging in the air as Claire's words hung heavy like bricks, each one adding weight to her resolve. Then an unexpected sound pierced the stillness, the unmistakable thud of boots on the wooden porch outside. More officers were arriving. "Claire, you need to trust us," the the first officer urged, but she felt the ground shift beneath her again. Trust? She spat the word like venom. After everything? In that moment, fear morphed into rage, a potent mixture that coursed through her. She turned back to James, searching desperately for any sign of the man she married, any trace of sincerity buried under his carefully constructed facade. What if she was wrong? What if everything she believed had been a lie crafted by her own fear? The thought made her stomach churn, an icy weight nestling deep inside her. Tell me, she yelled. What happened that night? Why should I believe anything you say? As James opened his mouth to respond, the door burst open behind the officers, and in strode two more figures, broad and stoic. The room went silent, a frozen tableau of conflicting emotions. Claire felt the breath leave her lungs as she locked gazes with the newcomer. Your fate is changing, Claire. Would the truth finally reveal itself now? Or would the shadows they trusted be their undoing? As the silence deepened, she sensed something was coming, something that could unravel everything once and for all. What fresh chaos loomed just behind the door? The newcomers stepped inside, their presence commanding. Claire's heart raced, wild and unsteady. One man, tall with sharp features, wore a badge that glimmered in the dim light. The other, shorter but broad-shouldered, glared around the room like a predator analyzing its surroundings. Their eyes flicked to James, then locked onto her with an unnerving intensity. What is going on here? The tall officer demanded, surprise evident in his voice. In that moment, the air vibrated with tension. Claire could feel her stomach knotting tighter as fear and desperation clashed violently within her. She struggled to gather her thoughts, each frantic beat of her heart echoing the uncertainty swirling around her. Claire, please, James pleaded, desperation spilling from him like blood from a wound. I swear it wasn't he what you think. What if I told you it wasn't he? The short officer shot back, his eyes narrowed. He stepped forward, closing the distance. Tell us the whole story. Why are we here? Claire opened her mouth, words bubbling in her throat, but no sound came out. All she could hear was the pounding of her heart, drowning out her thoughts. Before she could respond, the first officer gestured toward James. We need answers now. You're accused of something serious. Start talking. James glanced at Claire, an unspoken plea flickering in his eyes. You don't have to trust them, he said softly, as if that alone could pacify her. I can explain everything. Your words mean little, she spat out, bitterness lacing her tone. You've done enough damage. Aren't you the same person who found comfort in lies? The tall officer stepped closer, a steady gaze piercing through her resolve like a blade. Or maybe you've just turned into what you've always feared. The room stood still as Claire processed his words. How easily they twisted against her. Was she the victim or the villain? Her reality felt like a shattered mirror, reflecting bits of truth and illusion. Tell me about the blood, James, Claire demanded, her voice rising despite the overwhelming dread. What did you do? I didn't, he started, panic creeping into his voice. Enough. The short officer's command hung heavy in the air, punctuated by the sharpness of his tone. The blood is a serious matter. You need to realize the weight of the situation. Flashes of that horrid night flooded Claire's mind, the red stains, the screaming silence that followed. It felt like she was drowning in memories, each one a brick weighing her down. She shook her head, fighting against the pull of her past fears. You don't understand. He was hiding something dark. James's face twisted in frustration, his voice a strained whisper. Claire, don't do this. You have to listen to me. Please. But before he could finish, the first officer reached for his cuffs, prepared to detain James. The tension escalated, and Claire's breath hitched. Wait, she cried. The plea escaped her lips, raw and unfiltered. Doesn't anyone want to know what really happened? In that instant, a crack of thunder echoed outside, causing everyone to jump. The storm outside mirrored the tempest within her. A gust of wind rattled the window as if the universe was attempting to intervene. Tell me before it's too late, she shouted, fear clawing at her throat. Or I'll tell them myself. James's eyes widened, realization dawning on him. Within moments, Claire saw the shifting emotions on his face, panic turning to resolve. No, you don't need to. But Claire was done being silenced. She needed the truth to emerge from the shadows. As if compelled by an unseen force, she took a deep breath, ready to unravel the tangled web that had ensnared their lives. But just as Claire opened her mouth, a familiar voice called from the threshold, cutting through the strife. "Look what I found." Her heart sank. Next came a chilling certainty the truth had a way of clawing its way to the surface, and sometimes it brought terror along with it. What had this stranger uncovered, and how would it shift the balance of their crumbling world? "What is it? What did you find?" Claire's voice cracked as dread washed over her, pooling in her stomach like ice. The newcomer stepped inside, holding something glinting in the sparse light. In a swift motion, he tossed it onto the floor between them. A small knife, stained and dark, clattered against the wooden boards. Time froze as Claire's breath hitched in her throat, the echo of reality slamming into her with the force of a freight train. "Is this what you were looking for?" The stranger's sneer hung in the air, biting and cold. The officers shifted, their attention now riveted not just on James, but on the blade, its sinister presence looming over them like a specter. Claire's mind spun. Her pulse raced as panic clawed its way up her throat. The knife had been hidden, buried away within the layers of her memory, just like the secrets that twisted through their lives. "What are you doing?" James shouted, voice laced with terror. "That is not mine. You don't understand. Didn't you tell her everything?" The tall officer pressed, eyes glinting with a mixture of accusation and curiosity. "That you, of all people, knew how to hide a knife like this?" A sharp cry escaped Claire's lips, as if the weight of the knife pressed down on her chest. Every detail of that night came rushing back, each moment colored by her rising dread. She could almost hear the frantic heartbeat echoing in her ears, a twisted rhythm that matched the chaos bubbling beneath the surface. "James, please," she begged, grappling with the storm inside her. "You need to tell me the truth, right now." Flashes of the last days flickered in her mind, the whispered conversations, the shadows that danced around them, but were they even real? What had she missed? "Don't listen to them," James shouted, desperation palpable in his voice. "Claire," I swear. The short officer raised a hand, signaling silence. "We need to know how this fits into the story. Did you argue? Did it escalate?" His penetrating gaze bore into Claire, forcing her to confront the ghosts of her memories. "Argue, yes. We argued." Claire struggled to find the words, each one slippery and elusive. "But there was even more. I saw things that don't make sense." Her voice broke, chest tight as the truth hung at the precipice, begging to be unleashed. "You saw him, didn't you?" The tall officer pressed, leaning in closer, the weight of his presence suffocating. "You saw him that night?" "Yes." Claire's heart quaked as she forced the admission out. "He was there with someone else. I knew there was a secret. He was hiding something dark, but then I lost control. When I saw that knife, Suddenly, a raucous noise interrupted her, a cacophony of thunder booming outside, crackling lightning illuminating the room in flashes, underscoring the night's impending doom. Claire's breath quickened as she caught James's eyes, filled with an urgency to explain away the chaos, to pull her back from the brink. But the officers had already shifted their attention back to the stranger holding the knife, their focus drawn to the implications now swirling heavily in the air. "Tell us more," the tall officer demanded, voice low and steady. "We need clarity." Claire's heart raced as realization washed over her. What if everything she believed about James was a lie? What if he really had crossed a line she couldn't come back from? She needed to decipher the truth before it tore her apart. She opened her mouth to speak, the tremors of fear still coursing through her. The air shifted. Another voice echoed through the doorway, breaking the tension like glass shattering. "You'll want to hear this." Her heart plunged into a freefall. Who else could possibly be involved in this twisted tale of secrets and betrayal? And just as the shadows closed in tight, the weight of the unknown pressed upon her. The new arrival stepped forward, presenting a truth that could change everything. Would she be prepared for the consequences? The figure stepped into the dim light, drenched in rain and shadow. Claire squinted, trying to make sense of the silhouette. Her stomach twisted as recognition dawned. It was Lydia, her old friend, but this time, the familiar face held an unfamiliar intensity of frantic desperation. "Lydia?" Claire's voice was a mere whisper, disbelief mixing with confusion. Lydia's breath came out in rapid bursts, her eyes darting around the room before landing squarely on the knife gleaming ominously at their feet. You need to listen. I didn't know if I'd find you, or if I'd be too late. She pressed forward, almost knocking into the tall officer, her hands trembling. I have something to tell you. Something vital. What are you talking about? Claire started to take a step back, but the force of Lydia's words held her in place. That night there's more to it than you realize. I was there. Lydia's outburst sent a ripple of tension, making both officers shift uneasily. Claire felt her chest tighten, the walls of truth closing in around her. You were there? Claire asked, countless questions dancing in her mind. What do you mean? Lydia's eyes, wide and wild, locked onto Claire's. I saw everything. The argument, the fight, and the moment. What moment? James interjected, panic lacing his tone. He stepped forward, sincerity bleeding through his fear. What the hell are you talking about? The moment it all went wrong. Lydia's voice trembled but was full of authority. There was someone else involved. A third party. They waded into the chaos, and it ended in blood. She paused, taking a ragged breath. Blood on the knife. The air grew thick, an oppressive silence hanging over them as Claire's heart thumped louder, drowning out the thunder outside. What are you saying? Claire felt the walls of her sanity begin to quiver. What did you see? I was coming back from the store, Lydia pressed on, her desperation spilling over. I saw you both arguing outside the house. But I saw him too. I saw another man. An older man. She hesitated, gauging their reactions. They were screaming, and then, suddenly, he was attacking James. I thought I was seeing things, but it was real. James's face contorted with disbelief. No, that's not how it happened. I'm telling you, everything was under control until that knife was brought out. No. Lydia's voice rose, finally breaking through the fog. You don't understand. There are things you aren't aware of. He wasn't there by accident. More lightning cracked outside, illuminating the room and casting long shadows over their faces. Claire felt a rush of confusion and fear merge into a bitter cocktail in her stomach. What had she stumbled into? What secrets lay hidden, cloaked in darkness and lost memories? How do you know any of this, Lydia? The tall officer pressed, urgency creeping into his tone. What did you witness exactly? I rushed to help, but by the time I got there, it was too late. I saw the knife. Her voice faltered. I saw blood on James. I thought he'd done something terrible. Stop. Claire cried, her emotional dam beginning to crack as she struggled to piece it all together. If that's true, then who was the man you saw? Lydia bit her lip, glancing over her shoulder as if expecting the shadows to answer for her. I don't know, she whispered, voice small. But it looked like someone you know. Someone you both trust. With that simple statement, realization flooded Claire's mind, awakening a creeping unease. Her pulse quickened as dread wrapped its icy fingers around her heart. Knowing that whatever was hidden in the darkness was clawing its way to the surface, in that moment of silence, footsteps sounded from the hallway. Another presence, another secret threatening to unravel everything. Claire's eyes widened, petrified to discover the truth lurking just beneath the surface, a truth that could shatter their lives forever. Who is it? Claire whispered, clinging to the remnants of her composure. But as the door creaked open wider, the room plunged into an even deeper uncertainty. Would the next revelation lead to salvation or destruction? The door swung open, and silence hung heavy like the rain outside. Claire held her breath, dread pooling in her chest. The figure in the doorway was partially obscured by the shadows, but the familiar silhouette sent a jolt of icy panic racing through her veins. Eric? Claire's voice was barely audible, a whisper barely escaping her trembling lips. Eric stepped forward, his face eerily calm, contrasting sharply with the chaos raging around them. He appeared disheveled, his shirt stained, hair damp from the relentless rain. A heavy silence enveloped them, and Claire's heart pounded as her world tilted on its axis. What is going on? He questioned, his voice smooth, yet pregnant with an unspoken tension. Why are you all here? Claire glanced at Lydia, whose eyes widened with alarm. Lydia seemed caught between fear and anger, a mix that pushed her to speak out despite the weight of the moment. You need to tell her the truth, Eric. You need to explain what you did. Eric's expression flickered, the corner of his mouth twitching. Did? Lydia, what the hell are you talking about? Lydia took a shaky step closer, fingers agitatedly twisting in front of her. The night of the fight, the man who attacked James, you know who he is. You need to tell Claire before it's too late. Every word was a shot of adrenaline, and Claire forced herself to maintain composure, fearing she might shatter if she focused too long on the growing storm inside her. Eric, what do you know? She clutched at what felt like the only solid object in her life, desperate for an anchor in the swirling confusion that he hesitated, eyes darting to James, then back to Claire. I have my reasons for being out that night, but reasons? Lydia interrupted, her voice rising in frustration. You were in danger, Eric. You had to know. I tried to reach you, but... Stop. Claire's voice broke, carrying a weight that silenced them both. If you know something, if you know anything, please just tell me. Eric's hold on the doorframe tightened, knuckles white as tension wrapped around them all like a noose. I had a deal going down. I didn't want to get tangled in it all. That's why I was there. Why I was away from home. What kind of deal? James pushed, stepping between Eric and Claire, his stance protective yet cautious. Eric's jaw clenched, and Claire saw the glimmer of something in his eyes, a flicker of fear, regret, or perhaps guilt standing between them. It was supposed to be simple. Just a few bucks for information, he said, glancing back nervously up the darkened hallway. But I didn't expect anyone to get hurt. What does that mean? Lydia pressed, shaking her head as if trying to shake loose the cobwebs of truth from the corners of her mind. Someone got involved. Someone from your past. Eric ground out, his voice trembling. And that person is dangerous. I tried to keep you out, but you have to believe me. The pieces of a shattered puzzle began to form before Claire's eyes, but the shapes were all wrong. You knew? Her voice was a sharp edge, slicing through the air. You knew who was there, and you didn't tell me? It was supposed to be a secret, Claire. Eric's voice raised defensively. I didn't want you to be part of this mess. This isn't what I wanted for either of us. But all he had done was plunge them deeper into uncertainty. Claire's mind raced as more footsteps echoed ominously from the hallway, precipitating the arrival of another dark secret. What waited behind that door? Who would step into the light next, and how would it change everything? Who else is coming? Claire asked through gritted teeth, feeling the ground beneath her shift once more. And she knew, deep down, this was only the beginning. The door swung open one last time, and in walked Oliver, Claire's old flame, a ghost from a life she thought she'd left behind. The air turned icy as his familiar face emerged from the shadows, stark against the chaos. Claire's breath caught, mixed emotions spiraling within her: confusion, anger, and a glimmer of something like relief. Oliver? She breathed, almost as if his appearance were a cruel trick of fate. What are you doing here? His eyes darted around the room, meeting hers with a flicker of guilt. I came as soon as I heard. I know what happened that night, he said, voice steady yet laced with urgency. James drew back a step, recognizing the figure who had once held Claire's heart. What do you know, Oliver? You're not supposed to be involved, he spat, eyes darkening. It's too late for that, Claire shot back, anger coursing through her veins. You don't get to decide what's too late. I deserve to hear the truth from everyone. Oliver took a deep breath, holding her gaze. I never wanted you to get dragged into this. But you need to understand what happened that night isn't a simple accident. It wasn't just a fight. What do you mean? Claire snapped, heart hammering as she prepared for another piece of the puzzle to topple into place. Both Eric and James were involved, and there are larger forces at play, he continued, hands moving as if trying to shape the gravity of the situation. They've been mixing in worlds that should never cross. Are you saying they were part of something illegal? The tall officer interjected, brows furrowing as he took note of Oliver's words. Yes, that's exactly it, Oliver affirmed, nodding sharply. The man who attacked James was sent by someone who had connections to both of them, older guys who don't play fair. Claire's heart dropped, the pieces all starting to click into a horrifying picture. So you're saying James wasn't just some victim here? He had his own darkness, his own secrets? Oliver hesitated, his expression turning grave. I tried to pull away from that life, Claire. I thought they were done with me. But there's always collateral damage. It's messy. No, James shouted, shaking his head, fear creeping through his features. I was just trying to keep you safe. Safe? Claire echoed, incredulity flooding through her. You put me in danger with your lies. You hid the truth from me, and now it's all unraveling. Claire, please listen. James dropped to his knees, hands open in a gesture of desperation. I never wanted this. I thought I could protect you. Protect me? Claire replied, voice like ice. You thought keeping me in the dark was protection? Look around you. More officers moved into the room, the tension surging as one kicked the knife further into the corner. Claire's heart ached. A frantic storm brewed within her, a whirlwind of betrayal, pain, and a longing for clarity. Sergeant, one of the officers said, nodding toward Claire. We need to take statements and gather evidence. We have to document everything. As they stepped back, taking James away toward the front door, Claire felt the floor sliding beneath her. Life as she knew it was in tatters, her heart hanging between betrayal and truth, love and fear. Wait, Claire cried, feeling a strange, new strength rising in her chest. If anyone is going to talk, it will be me. She locked eyes with James one last time, seeing the shadows that surrounded him now clearer than ever. You can't decide what's best for me anymore. I'm taking control of my own life. The officers paused. Claire felt the weight of her decision settle around her like a cloak. It was her moment, a moment to choose honesty, to step into the light, to summon the courage she never knew she had. With quivering lips, she spoke into the charged silence. I was ready to stab him that night, but maybe the real weapon was the lies. I have to tell you everything, every detail. I need to unravel this. As Claire took a deep breath, the air crackled with the weight of uncertainty, yet somewhere inside, flickers of hope welled up. This was it, the point of no return. Oliver, James, Eric, all of you gather around. It's time we set the record straight. As they all moved closer, she felt the heavy truth resting between them, ready to burst forth, ready for the world to see. In that moment, liberation felt tangible, a new dawn breaking over a night filled with darkness. You need to subscribe now to catch every twist and turn of the exclusive stories ahead. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to help elevate the algorithm. Don't hold back. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about how this shocking conclusion unfolds. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this closure. Your voice matters, and together, we can build an amazing community.